Hello, welcome to full moon meditations for the month of January 2020. This month's full moon in Cancer coincides with a lunar eclipse, as well as a few other very important conjunctions and other astrological events that are incredibly important to take note of as well. The lunar eclipse, I have come to understand, is potentially here to open up a portal, especially in combination with the Saturn and Pluto conjunction that is happening, which I've been reading about how much the Saturn and Pluto conjunction has influenced political climates over the past few hundred years. It's a very long rabbit hole of a topic that I won't explore in depth during this recording, but is important to be aware that it's starting a new chapter, especially in terms of our political climate as we have seen unfold over the past few days. And with the lunar eclipse at the same period of time, it's helping to clear a path that perhaps we were not expecting. And really, it's ultimately for our soul's highest purpose to step onto this path. One of the thoughts or reflections that has come up for me continuously over the past few weeks is that we don't necessarily have to react every time that a shift occurs, whether that shift is internal or external. We can simply be a silent witness and bring our awareness to the event, again, whether that's internal or external. So if there are transitions that are occurring in your life that are unexpected, it may not necessarily be the best time to act or react. It may be a better time to wait, be patient, and see what unfolds. We also see this pattern in alignment with this particular full moon. Some full moons require us to act. They require due diligence to show up for the situation. But this full moon in particular, it seems to be more along the lines of a wait and see what the universe offers to you. It's a difficult time for decision making because we're waiting for the universe. We're waiting for Uranus to go direct, which is happening at this time, which will help to bring clarity in many areas of life. For the first time in quite a long time, none of the planets are in retrograde. Wow, that's amazing. One other thought that came up in my reflections for this moon was about, perhaps instead of waiting for the right opportunity or the right person or the right situation to walk into our lives, we can simply accept what is on our path currently, again, seeing what the universe offers to us. The Sun conjunct Mercury brings communication to the forefront of our awareness this full moon. That in combination with the Cancerian energy of this month, it is a helpful reminder to bring balance between communications and our emotions. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by a particular emotional state, to either try to separate that from a conversation with a loved one, or to potentially table having that conversation until your emotional state has dissolved or at least calmed down. One of the teachings that I'll share with you for this month's meditation is from one of my most beloved teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen Buddhist monk and anti-war activist from Vietnam. He speaks frequently about that topic of, not speaking to our loved ones in anger and waiting until that anger has dissolved before we have the conversation. And that, if, you're feeling angry, that there's nothing wrong with feeling angry, but to be a silent witness. And it may not even necessarily be anger. It could be grief. It could be betrayal. It could be so many number of things that may be coming to the surface. But to simply be a silent witness until that emotion has dissolved. And when we sit still and we focus on the breath and we return back to the present moment, oftentimes it's very easy for those emotions to dissolve once we simply come back to the present awareness. But it does take practice. It does take meditation. It does take, returning to ourselves, to our true selves, to our highest power. So many reflections for this month ring true for me, and it in particular, one of the things that has also been present for me is, as a very empathic person, I am often very sensitive to when other people around me are experiencing heightened emotional states. And so this past week, even though I wasn't feeling particularly emotional myself, I was feeling very sensitive to the emotional energy surrounding me that I felt was being either projected towards me or just in my general direction or just in the same space as me. Even though I wasn't feeling particularly emotional myself, I still had to come back to my breath and, return to the present moment, because I was feeling so many other things that people were feeling. One of the things that I've been feeling very deeply this week is one of my very dear friends is in Puerto Rico right now, spending time with her mother, who is in her final stages of life. And my dear friend is not only grieving the passing of her mother as she, is in hospice, but is also distraught by the current relentless earthquakes happening in Puerto Rico right now. And I've been feeling so deeply every time that I see her post or I speak to her or that I read the news about Puerto Rico. I feel so deeply the pain and the grief and the trauma. I feel it so deeply within myself. And so it's ultimately, it's, my compassion, it's the compassion that I feel for others, which is a beautiful thing. But it's also so important as an empathic individual to take the time to clear the energy of others and to create space within myself so that I can contain that compassion in a heartfelt but also a balanced way, so that it doesn't overwhelm me or shut me down or turn my attention away from the present moment, where maybe, yes, I am feeling distraught about my friend, but also there are other people and situations in my life that also require me to be present. On that note, let's begin our practice. So, if you're not already, you can come to a comfortable seated position. Bring the awareness to the sitting bones, the sits bones, the sacrum, ground this part of your body into the earth or into the props beneath you. Bring the awareness to the navel and draw it in and back towards the lumbar spine. Bring the awareness to the heart center. And lift up and out through the sternum. Bring the awareness to the collarbones and spread them out away from each other. Bring the awareness to the shoulder blades behind you. Draw them back and down away from the ears. Bring the awareness to the back of the neck and lift up powerfully all the way up through the back of the neck, up through the crown of the head. And now there is a simultaneous grounding below you and lifting above you. And then simply bring the awareness to the breath. Notice the quality of the breath. Is it fast or is it slow? Is it shallow or is it deep? Notice the quality of the breath. And close the eyes if they are not already. I'll invite you to share with me a mindfulness practice from Thich Nhat Hanh. This practice is very simple, but I return to it again and again, as often the most simple practices can be so powerful. On your next inhalation, you'll think quietly to yourself, breathing in. And then on the exhalation, breathing out. You continue this at your own pace. On the exhale, breathing out. On the inhale, breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. And if your mind begins to wander, which it inevitably, quite possibly will, then simply return to the practice of breathing in and breathing out. This is the mindfulness practice, is simply to be a present and silent witness of the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. ready, slowly release the mindfulness practice and return to normal breathing. Our next practice is called the Universal Temple. I'll invite you to simply keep the eyes closed and imagine that you are in an ethereal, holy temple, a sacred space. You can imagine the most beautiful temple that you've ever seen or visited, or simply imagined in your mind. Imagine all the details of the temple, the colors, the smell of the incense, the candles, the beautiful artwork, the sacred symbols, the feeling of being in a safe and sacred and holy place. I'll invite you to take a seat in the Universal Temple. And first, I'll encourage you to invite in any of your spirit guides. It could be a particular deity that you have an affinity with. It could be angels or saints or spirits, animals, ancestors. It could be a spiritual teacher, or mentor, counselor. This being could be living or deceased. Who do you want to invite into your sacred universal temple to help you hold the space? Then I'll ask if there is anyone you want to invite into your universal temple that perhaps you want to dedicate your practice to this full moon. It could be a loved one, a family member, or anyone that you want to share this feeling of love, healing, compassion, this safe and sacred space of the Universal Temple. This month, I want to dedicate my practice to my friend and her mother in Puerto Rico. In this moment, I will invite them into the space of the Universal Temple with me and my spirit guides and my ancestors, and hold this space for them and their family. I'll invite you to continue to hold the sacred space of the universal temple for just a few more breaths. And to close the practice, I want to invite you to think of either a prayer or a mantra or any other type of devotion that you can offer to the spirit guides that have helped you to hold the space or the container for this universal temple as your way of giving honor and gratitude to their presence in this space. One of the beings that I invited into my temple was Tara. I was thinking of the mother that protects and holds compassion for all living beings. My devotion to Tara this evening is Om Tare Tutare Pushtim Kuruam. Of course, you are welcome to use that mantra or any other offering of devotion to anyone that you invited into your safe and sacred space this evening. Then slowly release this practice of devotion from your mind at your own pace. And then simply return to the practice of breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And when you're ready, you can slowly release your breathing practice. Bring the hands to the heart center. And bow the head. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. Namaste.